Well, the House of Bread came around through Matt Turner really having a vision for doing something about homeless and vulnerable people in Stafford. And he simply decided he would go out of an evening around Stafford in the early hours, looking for people basically. And that's how it started, as simple as that. He didn't find very many because what we've established over the years that we've been running is that most people who are sleeping rough are already tucked up in a small little cupboard hole somewhere during the middle of the night hours, and it's usually around about 5 or 6 in the morning, which is when they normally sort of appear on the streets. So it started off really as Matt's sort of brainchild, and then it's expanded and grown as needed, really. We often say, it'd be great if we turned up at a House of Bread event and there was nobody there for all the right reasons, but unfortunately that doesn't happen. There are an awful lot of people out there who are vulnerable and homeless.
How long has the House of Bread been around, Will? And where are you based in Stafford, if people have not heard of you?
Right, well, we started in October 2010, and originally we were based at St Mary's Mews, which is a very, very small little room in the middle of Stafford, just opposite St Mary's Church. In fact, I don't think you'd even notice if you walk past. And we grew, basically, when we first started, we had around about 10 people of a night. We open on Wednesday evenings between sort of 6 o'clock and 9. And as I say, we had 10 in the early days, and we thought that was pretty good. But if I tell you now that we've moved to Trinity Church, which is the church opposite Wilkinson's, and regularly we're now feeding over 60, and in fact last week we served 72 meals. That's a huge growth. It's symptomatic of what's happened within society. We certainly reflect the changes in the benefit system. I think the other area, and this is not a government criticism at all, the fact is that statutory authorities can do an awful lot, but they can't actually hold people's hands. And that's what House of Bread can do. We can take somebody and we can, through trust, particularly the hard-to-reach folk, through the means of a meal, we can engage with them, build up a relationship, which can take months. Seriously, it can take months, to a state where they're in a position to be able to share some of the issues that brought them to that place. The sort of variety of people we have, they're all vulnerable, but they might be homeless by choice, and we do have people who are homeless by choice. A huge amount of people who have experienced a crisis in their lives, lost a job, family breakdown, mental health issues. Large amount of sofa surfers, that's somebody who doesn't have a fixed abode and simply sleeps on your sofa and can have done that for 2 or 3 years. And then the other area is social isolation. That's people who live on their own, and House of Bread for them is their only opportunity of socialising. And in fact, we've got one lady who catches a bus in from a local village and will come and experience the House of Bread, and then we'll take her home in the evening.
It sounds to me that the House of Bread, Will, is a lot more than a soup kitchen.
Yeah, I don't really describe it as a soup kitchen because that sort of conjures up a rather depressing experience. If you come to the House of Bread, it is the most uplifting experience, and that's not from me, that's the volunteers just talking to me about what we do. So, yeah, we provide the meal, but it is more than a meal. The meal is the draw, the attraction, because what happens is if you are not eating well, then there's a lot of things that happen in your life. Your thinking capacity fails, your ability to be rational fails, your capacity to understand even what time of day it is. Now, when you're eating, and I don't know about you, but that eating process, particularly after you've had a meal, there's that slightly sort of soporific time when you're sort of sitting back, kicking back, having a cup of coffee. That's the moment. This is the intriguing thing about House of Bread. That's the moment where the conversation about sharing will happen, if it's appropriate. The majority of the money comes from donations. We are immensely blessed by people who send me cheques, send me cash. We do apply for grants where that's possible, and in fact, to give you an example, we applied for a wellbeing grant through the council, which was great to sustain some of the key elements of what we offer, which actually you mentioned, it's the food bank, the clothing bank, to make sure we have a quantity of sleeping bags. But the rest of the money that we need, and we don't really need a huge amount, but as we develop we will need more, comes from donations.
Tell us about the volunteers and the staff you've got at the House of Bread, Will. What sort of volunteers turn up to help you on this?
Everybody and anybody. It's truly amazing. We've got about 161 volunteers. You can't imagine what an eclectic mix of volunteers we have. We've got professionals who are within the care environment. We've got professionals who are in the legal, accountancy. We've got retired folk. We've got unemployed folk. We've got part-time folk. We've got male, female, under 18s, over 8. I mean, I could go on.
It's amazing how the House of Bread has developed and grown over the last 3 years. It's unfortunate, of course, that there's a need for this sort of service in this day and age, but it's amazing that you guys have got, well, you've got something really special going here by the sounds of it. You've mentioned the volunteers, the number of people that are coming to you is growing. I mean, what are the plans for the future for the House of Bread? Where do you go next?
I think what House of Bread can do, and one of the abilities of the volunteers, and particularly the group who are managing this, is about bringing other partners in. There are a huge amount of statutory agencies out there and volunteer sectors and groups that have specialist knowledge and specialist gifts. And what House of Bread does is we enable them to come together. So, for example, Midland Heart, who work locally, who are involved in providing sheltered accommodation, they need to access clients in a way that is successful in terms of getting people back into some sort of accommodation. But those people, very often the hard to reach, won't go to a meeting. They won't go to a formal interview process. They just are uncomfortable about that. But they will come to us week in, week out and have a shepherd's pie.
So just to underline, you don't have to be homeless to come and see you at the House of Bread?
Anybody is welcome. I mean, for example, on Christmas Day we had around about 50 to 60 guys and girls there. We had as many volunteers because it's trying to normalise it for everybody. And we had a guy there who, he lives in a house. He is actually quite wealthy. The point is, he's a vulnerable person. He's socially isolated. He's welcome to come along. House of Bread is not about pushing you on to the next stage. If you want to be pushed or you want to be encouraged, that's fine. But if you want to just come along and hang out, whoever you are, and we don't ask you. I know a lot of our friends of House of Bread by their nicknames. I have no idea who they are. All I know is they come along and they'll chat to me about their world. And if I can talk to them and listen to what they're talking about and maybe suggest some alternative solutions, maybe, hanging out with guys and drinking too much is not the best thing. But rather than just simply giving advice, here's somebody who's been there and done that and actually recovered from alcoholism. So don't listen to me about it. I'm going to encourage you to talk to this person. They've been through it. And that's the way we work. It's very, very subtle.
Thanks, Will. A final word then for anybody listening who's thinking, this could be for me. I'd like to help. How do I get involved?
Come and see us. Come and talk to us and see whether you're as an individual or whether you're a business that wants to get involved. Sainsbury's have got involved in our food collection point. There's lots of other businesses that we could work with. I think Stafford needs to try and take ownership of this and help us. A lot of people who are just about holding on to their world in terms of accommodation, the changing of the benefit system, I can only see our numbers going one way, and that's up. So we need to work with Stafford, engage with Stafford, and see if we can't help more people, because these people are your neighbours, and that's so true. You make assumptions about the people living close to you, but House of Bread is about saying, who is your neighbour? Let's get them together, let's support each other, and let's do this for Stafford.